snuck it under, and I said something along the lines of, "Has that gone over?" And he just patted me on the back.
I've got to talk about the Haka, and I've got to talk about the Farrell smirk.
It was just stood there thinking, how good's this? There's nowhere else you'd rather be other than here. Just down to me not being able to kick the goals, that meant that it went on as long as it did.
Was Joe Riley giving you a bit of advice here? Do you remember what he was saying to you at that point?
I don't remember that one. There was one in the game before the last kick where he gave me a bit of a look and went, "Come on, as in, you've got to get this one." Which I thought, yeah, it's fair enough.
Well, hello and welcome to What Went Down on BT Sport. I'm Hugo Monnier, and joining me today is a man that has been there and done it on the club and international level for over a decade. Of course, is the England Saracens and British and Irish Lions, Owen Farrell. Owen, how are you getting on?
Good, thanks, Hugo. You?
Yeah, not too bad. How's lockdown treating you?
It's all right. I mean, we're being able to go and train and to get out the house a bit more than a lot of people. So we're pretty privileged. So it's going well.
The first game we want to look at is the 2011 Premiership final. Owen, I think you were 20 at the time, and it was your first Premiership final. That's you just there in shot. What a team it was! Just walking through that tunnel, coming out. I mean, that would have been the biggest stage that you played on. What were your thoughts walking down that tunnel, about to embrace on your first Premiership final?
One thing I do remember is like being massively nervous before the game. Probably more so in the week, in the build up to it, in probably the days before more than anything. But as we was lining up then to go out, I remember smiling. I remember thinking, like, how good's this? And it kind of completely getting into what was actually happening rather than worrying about everything that could happen. And then as soon as you start playing, it goes by so quick.
I think lots of people would, I guess, describe you as very dependable and also Mr. Consistent. And I think the best illustration of that is your hairstyle, because 10 years ago, you're still rocking the same thing that you got today, right?
I'd probably just made a change just before then. I had a long McFly busted type thing before that. So I think leaving school was a big change for me. Yeah.
2 years later, an epic semi-final up against Toulon, and although the result didn't go your way, there was one iconic moment which we'd love you to see and pass comment on.
My thoughts and memories were that probably sealed the deal for them in terms of winning the game. So as you can see, I weren't too happy about it. But I remember seeing him, seeing Johnny obviously not really drop back, but maybe start thinking about the drop goal, and I obviously tried to hit him. Saw that he couldn't get the drop goal over, and he snuck it under. And I think I said something along the lines of, "Has that gone over?" And he just patted me on the back. Obviously being very nice. And I was gutted. Yeah.
Having you talk through that moment again, I can still almost see that it really pains you, even though it was almost 8 years ago.
You can see by my body language there that I just remember how gutted I was at the time. That's more than anything. The semi-final is obviously a massive game, and to come out on the wrong side of it, and that moment probably sealing the deal was obviously tough. Yeah.
So in 2017, massive year for yourself as well as the British and Irish Lions touring against New Zealand. I mean, the first test didn't quite clearly go to plan, having lost that 30-15, but how did you take confidence from that match to be able to produce the performance which you did in the second test?
Probably that we didn't give the best account of ourselves in that first test. I think second test we came and felt like we were ready. It was a tough, wet, windy day, but it was an awesome game to play in.
Oh, well, you can see absolutely amazing memories. I remember watching that from my home, but it was a game plan that got you the win. I was really interested. You played outside Johnny Sexton, two unbelievable rugby players, two great kickers. How do you decide who's taking the penalties at goal? Who decides who's kicking those conversions?
I think the coaches had a discussion. It wasn't between us
I'd love it if
and
it was
Jenks.
between you
Yeah.
and
I don't know if that would have
Oh,
gone down. I'm not sure.
well, straight after the match, there's a clip of you saying, "Get used to that because we're winning again next weekend." Where does your confidence and belief come from, and how do you maintain a relentless attitude towards winning?
I don't know. Competitive, I guess, is the main thing. I always have been. I think everything that we said since we met up on that tour was about winning the Test series, and you want to feel like it doesn't take too much out of you by it being too much that you've just been in an emotional game. What we're trying to do was try and make people be able to go again the week after and normalize it, I guess, so that it's no, it is a big deal, but it's no big deal, and um, straight onto the next thing after you've obviously celebrated that win.
So let's cast our minds back to just over a year ago in what was described as one of the greatest England performances of all time, the semi-final against New Zealand in that World Cup. Before we talk about the performance, I've got to talk about the Haka, and I've got to talk about the Farrell smirk. You wouldn't have been aware of the face that you had at that time, but it's turned into this iconic picture. When you're staring down at the Haka, what are you thinking? What's the mindset?
No, I guess when you call it a smirk, it sounds like it's cocky. It was just stood there thinking, how good's this? Uh, there's nowhere else you'd rather be other than here, and I can't wait to get going and play. I was excited for obviously a massive challenge, playing one of the best teams of all time in a World Cup semi-final. Yeah.
So, Owen, it's been a very good 2020 for England rugby, winning the Six Nations and then also winning the Autumn Nations Cup after extra time. Considering the disappointment you had in the Rugby World Cup final, so much been spoken about the performance level of that game, England against France. How big was it for the team to finally win that final, despite not being at their very best?
I think that the way that we came out in the second half, and especially when we had the kick to the corner at the end of the 80 minutes, and we had to execute, and we did, was pleasing. Obviously, the lads put us in a position to win that game a good few times in that second half, and obviously it was down to me not being able to kick the goals that meant that it went on as long as it did.
How do you compartmentalize each kick, put it to one side, and then focus on the next one?
The ability to let things go is massive, and it sometimes bits creep in, and it has big impacts. I guess at times I probably carried bits from my last kick into my next one because I overcompensated at times in that game. So that probably taught me a lesson. But yeah, it was as I said, I was very thankful that the team kept putting us in situations to give us another shot. Yeah.
Was Joe Marler giving you a bit of advice here? He's lingering on a little bit longer than everyone else. Do you remember what he was saying to you at that point when you're awkwardly having to hand out the medals in front of no one?
No, I don't remember that one. There was one in the game before the last kick where he gave me a bit of a look and went, "Come on, as in you've got to get this one," which I thought, yeah, it's fair enough.
Owen, it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you over the monumental games that you've had in your career over the last decade. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.